I've been in the Web 0 all the way out to Web 3 industry for 13 plus years now. I was in tech before the dot-com bubble happened, and I'm in Web 3 before a lot of stuff comes crashing down. I don't profile because I'm pseudonymous, but you'll often find me as the little black cat in most servers. I work pseudonymously in DAOs, DeFi, I advise, I invest. I'm a Gitcoin kernel DeFi mentor. My preferences are deep liquidity tokenomics because I feel like we haven't really scratched the surface of what tokenomics actually means as an industry. And so today's session was specifically designed around founders and generally people who don't have a lot to spare in terms of funding, people who don't have connections to venture capitalists, who don't have very large community sales, who don't have very large public sales. So if you don't have a lot of money, how is it that you actually start your journey where you're hacking your protocol? This session is for everyone. So if you're not a founder, don't think of it as, oh, maybe this session is not for me. You can be a developer, you can be a generalist, you can be a techie, you can be a non-techie, you can be somebody from the Web 2 industry who has not entered crypto yet. You can be anybody. This session is to sort of just open up a third horizon from your mind where you can think about crypto. You can be an artist, you can be a photographer, you can be anybody. This session is to just sort of cross that chasm and get started, right? So this is a meme line, it's growth hacking streams for lean Web3 beings, how to make a noise before you raise that moolah. I think we should define the word growth hacking before we begin. I think a lot of people use the word marketing very loosely, and a lot of people sort of get offended by the word marketing because they're like, oh, I don't know marketing. Everyone knows marketing. When you meet somebody and you shake your hand, you say hello, you're marketing yourself. It's instant. Growth hacking is a larger term which includes several things. It includes marketing, business development, any sort of growth, any sort of product understanding, product lifecycle maturity. Everything is part of growth hacking. I need you to understand that as we move ahead. So let's say you're a founder. You're not a single founder, you're two people. Or you're a single founder and you have a set of friends who've agreed to do this with you. What are some of the questions that you would otherwise ask of you and of them? The first question is, who am I and where do I come from? This is very founder specific. Every founder has a story. You could be an artist, you could be somebody who successfully exits several businesses, you could have run a restaurant or a cafe before, but everybody has individuality, and individuality is branding. Who you are is branding. Where you come from is branding. You need to brand yourself. Where do my co-founders come from? It's the same story for everybody, because when you stitch that together, it becomes the story of the protocol that led to said brand, whatever the brand name is. Where should my first customer come from? This is very important because who are you building for? What does that perfect profile look like? The perfect person, what does the perfect user look like for you is where should our first customer come from? Therefore, what do they look like? In Web 2, that's really disturbing if you don't mind, ma'am. I'm really sorry. Urban portrait profiling is a thing we used to do in Web 2, where you determine a target of your digital portrait. So this person shops here, goes here, eats here, spends this time on social media, spends time on such and such platform like Facebook, Twitter, Discord, High5, MySpace, whatever. You don't know who they are. Maybe they shop on eBay, maybe they shop on Amazon. When you translate the same thing into Web3, it changes. Where do they spend time on crypto Twitter? What are the hashtags that they follow? What are the protocols that they follow? What are the L1s that they believe in? What do they shill? What are they buying that was launched last week? So therefore, do they invest in alpha or do they not invest in alpha? What do we have right now to draw from? This is very personal to the founder pool. It's like, does someone have money? Does somebody have connections? Does somebody have expertise? And if we don't have any of that, at least we have the native token. The native token is a smart contract mint that we will mint at some point in time. So we will give ourselves a certain amount of money and we will have full access to that as a centralized ecosystem before we decentralize GoDAO or whatever else that is, right? But how do we actually start that journey with native tokens before really blowing things up? I think one of the biggest problems people have is, oh, we don't have USDC to market. that should not end your protocol, or that should not be the end of your growth or the end of your marketing. That's the purpose of this session today. So what can I invest? There are times when out of 2 founders or out of 3 founders, one founder actually has cash, but starting up is risky. And if the other founder does not have as much capital, what you can do is promissory note things, in the sense that I'm going to put in $20,000, but the minute we raise money or the minute we open the smart contract, I get allocated said tokens worth $20,000, or the treasury just reimburses me. And then you use that 20K as your startup capital and you do everything you have to with that money. That is an option. It's been done of age in Web 2 and Web 0. So never hesitate to put your own money, with the full understanding that you should fully refund yourself. All founders must understand that you will refund yourself. Only then should you clause this that way. If not, there's a lot of capital and angel investments. You can easily raise 25, 30K to start with. You can easily even raise 150K to start with. This is if you don't want to do that. If you don't want to dilute just yet, or you're not sure what you're building, but you just need very initial capital to even get your MVP. Let's say you're a founder who's non-technical. This is one of the biggest problems of non-technical founders. Like, how do I pay somebody to build this protocol? Because I can't write that smart contract. How much is the bare minimum? I think this is at the core of growth hacking as a concept. Again, growth hacking is not only marketing. Growth hacking is understanding when to say no. Growth hacking is like, oh, I want to build this massive, delicious product with 100 features, but I can only afford to build 2 of them, and that's okay. Because all I need to do is build a local host demo, show it to a few people, raise funds accordingly. So it's what is it that you can do as the bare minimum? What is the minimum viable product? That's the whole point of the bare minimum. If someone asked you your vision in 1 sentence, and you don't have 1 or 2 sentences, then something's wrong. You need to go back, you need a workshop, you need to sit your founders, your co-founders, your friends, your Web3 fam down on a Zoom call or in a cafe. You need to figure this out. You need to have 1 narrative. You need to tell 1 story. You cannot be saying different things. No one is going to believe in your vision. But more than that, you won't believe in your vision, because you'll be building something for your vision, your co-founder is building something for their vision, and everyone's just building something for everybody else's vision. And that's just it's not cohesive. In the future, it will be a problem. So that's the first question nice timing, to ask. The second is, the first, as you see on the top, is basically core team. So this is all core. Core is not just founders with skin in the game, but it could be anybody other than skin in the game, like people who have 1% equity or 0.5% tokens, or just like getting cut their first check. It could be anybody. All of that is core, right? The second is friends and Web3 fam. Now, friends and Web3 fam is basically your first 10, your first 50, or your first 100. Your first few people whom you begin to talk to and who are excited by what you want to do and ask you if you have, oh, I like what you're doing. Do you have a Telegram? Do you have a Discord? Your first 100. That's how you get your first 100. How do you do that, right? Events. Now, if you all go to the Blocksplit 2022 chat, right, the main chat, and you open up the add member section where you're adding somebody on Telegram, you will see a list of 700 attendees. Several of those attendees have chosen to give themselves a name on Telegram, which includes their brand name. Their brand name is basically a bunch of sponsors from here, or their attendees. When was the last time you opened up their website, checked out what they do, went to them to a stall, or looked for them in a crowd, shook hands with them, and tried to set up a partnership? That's a waking Rolodex waiting for you to take advantage of it. When was the last time you did anything about it? Events are an investment for founders. You might be spending from your own pockets, but there has to be ROI. So if you're going to an event, ensure that maximum ROI comes from making maximum connections, and they need not be connections that you use even in the first year of operations. No need. It can be in the second year of operations. It's totally fine. But ensure that you spread a spider web of networks that you're building. It's very important in Web3, and that's like the Web 2 equivalent of like speed dating for VCs. I don't know if you know, they do speed dating in Web 2. It was very famous for hackers, hustlers. or hacker hustlers and VCs to do speed dating in San Fran and stuff. They were very format events and they were very famous. That's how everybody got their first check. Events in Web3, we're only just getting out of the pandemic. Make sure you make use of it. Make sure you have ROI. People. People is more about whom do I know as a founder, whom do you know as a co-founder, whom do you know as a co-founder, who is in your network, whom have you been talking to. Before we started this, which are the DAOs that you were a part of, which are the DAOs that you contributed in that also blends into like your Web3 fam. So connections comes into that. It's like, who do you know that we can strike up a conversation with today? They may not invest in us, they might give us advice that we may not use, but we've put the word out there. If they're talking to somebody, like for instance an investor, and they say, oh, I know these people who are building so and so thing, they can always make the connection to you. Connections are very important. It's important for you to meet somebody and not judge them as, hey, I know that you're not an investor, but I still want to get to know you, because you never know how you'll find your way back to them. It's the same thing for initial barter partnerships. There are several platforms today that are what we call permissionless. You don't need anybody's permission to set up on them. Your token can have an LP, have a certain amount of liquidity, and just get set up on that platform. Permissionless partnerships, especially if you're an introvert, are the best way to form partnerships, because you can get on top of the platform, you can get on top of the decks of the AMM, you can put their logo on your website, and you didn't have to talk to a soul because maybe you're not good at it. This is a big problem of tech founders. They hate talking to people. And so permissionless partnerships are a great way to just get started and get those few initial logos in the bottom of your website. Warm introductions. Warm introductions also ties into everything else. Who are your connections? Who are your barters? Who are your people? Who are your events? At yesterday's Neo Protocol event at the pub, I think Paycheck and a couple other people presented. They were building on top of Neo. It was free exposure for both sides. There was somebody already building on top of Neo, and for these guys, they got Neo's $700 million treasury funding an event for them without having to do squat, right? It's actually a great ROI perspective if you think about it, going and speaking at an event like that. So who are the people who can make warm introductions to you? Imagine you went and set up on Ascendex or Thorchain or one of the other dexes. Can you then go to the Thorchain team and say, hey, you know what? I already exist as an LP on you guys. There is no person in the team who will not be excited. If you're already set up on a platform, there's no one who won't be excited, because you're instantly giving them deep liquidity and usage. You're adding to them. They will be willing to make you a warm introduction. Make no mistake, they will be willing. Angels and advisors. Oftentimes when people start protocols, I don't know of a lot of people who start just fresh off. Like you just hop in from Web 2 and just go like, no, I'm gonna build something. Usually people don't do that. Usually they shop around a little bit. They do a little bit of window shopping. They go to some DAOs, they go to some events, they spend some time on Twitter. They argue with people on Twitter. Who are these initial people that you're talking to that you can write to? When you're looking at angels and advisors, one good tip is to draft a message and make it personal. Don't make it, it doesn't have to be perfect English, it doesn't matter, but it has to be personal. Hey, I'm from so-and-so, give a call to action. This is my website, and I'm building inline your one mission statement from the last one. Envision, what is your one sentence? And what is it that you actually want from them? What happened? Hello? Does it move? No. Okay. What is it that you actually want from them? There are times when I've written to people in like the start of my career, maybe like 3 years ago, whatever. They've read my message after 2 weeks, or they've read my message after 1.5 months, but they've always come back to me. They've always said yes, no, maybe, and several fruitful relationships have started from cold calls. So don't be afraid to cold call somebody over Telegram or over Twitter DM or over Discord DM after you've done your research to ensure that they're definitely a part of the admin of that project that you're talking to. Web3 fam, this is more community. This again brings you to, every time I tweet from our Twitter, who are the people who respond to us first? They could even be naysayers. They could be people who don't like you, or they don't like what you're doing. Or it's not that they don't like what you're doing, it's just that they don't understand it just yet. And so they look like they don't like what you're doing, but they're really interested because that's why they're bothering to write to you in another trillion tweets on Twitter. Who is your first 100? Who are the first 100 people who drop into your Discord? That is sort of like your friends and your Web3 fam, because whoever those top 100 are, believe you me, if your product like lasts more than a year, those 100 will oftentimes still remain right there. They will be your starting few community. DAO and crypto Twitter, I'll be fast with this. Which DAOs do we know? Which have we contributed to in the past? This is for people who've been in Web3. Whom have we worked with in a DAO or seen on crypto Twitter that really aligns with our vision? This is for influencers, blue check marks, who is talking about something useful with a blue check mark, because everyone's trying to shill an altcoin, but if there's somebody who's talking about an ideology that nobody else has explored, and you're like, oh, that's exactly what we're building, then they're an instant fit for you. And you don't even need to pay them sometimes to talk about you. If they like what you're doing, and if you get an anonymous Zoom call with them or something like that, they're going to instantly start talking about your product with a hashtag DYOR, a hashtag NFA. Who'd be a good testing buddy? This is really important. Before a smart contract launches, it always has something called a testnet. Participating in a testnet is not easy because oftentimes only validators do this. The one way to do free marketing is to do an incentivized testnet. It's sort of like paying people in your native token to use your protocol. It's sort of like paying them to audit, but they're just basically anons or node runners or validator operators. And this is a great way to market because those people end up becoming your first few subsets of validators. They start bonding, and then everybody starts delegating to validators, and it just grows. The network grows kind of instantaneously. So this is like, it's a very understated manner of growth, because most people don't think validators could mean growth, because validators are quite obvious, right? You need them for a smart contract. But if you incentivize validators, they could stay with you for the long term. We've seen this happen often. Which validators on our primary network seem the strongest? Once you start an incentivized testnet, after 3 months or after 2 months, you already have data on who's had maximum uptime, who's had 100% uptime, who's had 70% uptime, who came in, took your money, left, who came in, took your money, nests in a smart contract, then left, who came in, took your money, hopped around, swapped to a stable coin, left. You have all of that data, right? The blockchain is immutable. You can see this data and you can decide to reward the primary validators on things, or you can decide to drop them off. There have also been times when you have 100 validators who go ahead, but you only decide to keep 20 because of this data. And then they just remain with you for life, for the life of your project. Uptime, age history, length of delegations, DAOs and crypto Twitter. That's it. I'm gonna stop talking now. Now it's time for Q&A. But more than that, I would like all of you to do one small exercise. It would be nice if you can do it individually, but instead of asking the question, what do I need? I want all of you to answer the question, where am I stuck right now? Where am I stuck? You could be a developer, you could be a marketer, you could be a founder, non-founder, doesn't matter. I want you to answer the problem statement, where am I stuck right now? And from there, we will go into the next half where we sort of do some sort of clinic where everybody talks about their problem statement and we try to collectively answer the spots where they're stuck. Before that, does anybody have any questions in the very lengthy 3 slides that I presented? No.
Maybe
yes,
just
please.
Like on the testnet part, so
yeah.
basically you suggest to incentivize testnet for like early contributors. Like how do you suggest to frame that? Because usually it can be very subject to like civil attacks and people just here for the opportunity.
Yes.
Without being real end users of the product. So
yes.
how do you like frame that to avoid like to really like ensure that you get your outcome, which is improving your product,
yes.
and creating a first community instead of...
Yes, yes. Have you heard of the word retro? Do you know what retro means in crypto Twitter? Retro is basically of age, right, in the past or whatever. In plain English, retro basically means something that you react to. So retroactive is something that you can attribute to everything. You can have a retroactive airdrop, you can have a retroactive testnet, you can have a retroactive Gleam, you can have a retroactive Discord. Retro basically means I will only pay you if you do said action. So incentivize testnets, but retro. For example, let's assume that you started a testnet, you tweeted out $250 of native tokens for the testnet, and then you promoted that tweet. That tweet goes out in the ecosystem, you have a small sub-channel in Discord, which is about incentivized testnets, and people start dropping in. And you're not sure if these people are rug pullers or scammers or real testnets, real validators or such. And you give them a time frame of a month. For a month, they do everything from, they have length of delegations, they have number of delegations, how many users have they brought, what is the age of the validator that they are running, what kind of infrastructure and hardware are they running on. That tells you a lot about a validator without really having to know the person. And you do that for a month, but you only keep it at 250. In the next set, you remove them and you retro. So if 100 people applied, you keep only 25 in retrospect. And those 25 now get $500 in testnet. And then you again go to 15 or 10, and those 10 get $1,000 in native tokens for retrospect to sort of bond to their validators to validate for you. So there's ways to game the system that works for you while still having to use Web 2 tactics of marketing.
And I mean, usually there's quite some fun about retroactive airdrops because your token then is dumped, and we've seen that historically
yes.
tokens that perform like retroactive airdrops have not shown great performance. I mean, I guess there are probably ways to better structure on the retroactive airdrop to avoid that, to raise the tokens.
I think in my experience, the ones that actually dump are the free airdrops. Those are absolute nightmares. Your DMs will be full, your mentions will be full, everybody will be like, sir, when airdrop, sir, airdrop, oh my God, sir. The minute they get the money, they'll be like, sir, how can I sell? What the fuck? You're not supposed to sell, that's not the point of getting an airdrop, right? That's actually why retro works, is because retro is usually broken down into phases. So when you have your staking live, when you have your LPs live, when you have certain actions conducted on bots on Discord, when you have actions conducted on bots on Telegram, you do all of those steps and you unlock tokens. The unlock screen does not go live. When the unlock screen goes live, you don't have it listed anywhere, so you can't dump the token. So you've sort of earned the token and you've spent so much time with this protocol that now it's detrimental to token health and to your wallet to dump these tokens. That's why retro works. The ones that don't work is that, oh, you bond to this delegator and we'll just give you free money. Everybody runs to bond, everybody runs to delegate. The minute somebody else announces exactly the same thing, they redelegate. They don't even have an unbonding period. So what actually works is stake drops and retroactive drops. What doesn't work is open airdrops. I don't know if that's too much jargon for other people. I'm sorry.
Also investing. That's not something new.
Yes.
Very much an airdrop that probably should be used a lot more.
I think that's what retroactive drops do, is that the retro is the vest. It doesn't unlock anytime soon. The smart contract's minted, but it's not listed anywhere. So you can't LP, you can't stake, you can't yield, and therefore you can't sell. So it's sort of like a forced vesting of a month or two that your tech team takes to audit, to build the smart contract, to take it live, to list on an exchange or otherwise, or LP and such. And it's like a forced vesting. At this point, you're seeing slow appreciation of the token that you got for free, and you're not incentivized to sell it anymore. So that's one way we've seen working. It can be a bit of both. You have a lot of FUD around projects, and it happens when you don't give a large portion of your treasury as an airdrop, then you get a lot of FUD. It happens. So
look, I have a question as well. So
sure.
This is very oriented to starting up a company, and so how much does the perspective change when you get to a company that's funded, but still wants to utilize growth techniques for the protocol because the growth is slow, or there's factors that just make it so that integration is not happening, or they're confirmed not happening because the partners are not incentivized enough, but you as a project don't have anything to incentivize them with, except VC money, for example. How do you think about that? Or
that's actually where your native token comes into picture. You have to understand that your native token is like money in the bank waiting for you, and you are going to get it if you are going to mint a smart contract. It's a no-brainer. It's not that you won't get it. You are going to get that money. So when you're trying to pay influencers, you can pay them in the native token. You don't have to pay them in USDC. When you're trying to talk to somebody in a barter, when you're trying to do LP, you can LP in native token, you don't need USDC. When you're trying to pay somebody to sort of like help out with a Telegram sticker pack or a Discord sticker pack or make some graphics for your website or help you design your light paper, you can pay everyone in your native tokens, which is at a future date. It is very possible, people do it all the time, and oftentimes people who have experience in this come and ask you for your native token. They're like, I'm actually okay getting money in tokens, I don't need to get paid in USDC, because they're just looking to reinvest, and they remain with you for the lifetime.
And so from something like that, a token doesn't officially need to be out, right?
No, no, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of why that is growth hacking. If you're just spending VC money, it's not growth hacking, it's expensing, you know? Okay, everyone, one problem statement of where am I stuck? Just that. Just take a few minutes. You can write it down on the notepad on your phone. I guess we're all Gen Z in a different generation. And once you're ready, you can just start putting your hands up in terms of you have a problem statement, you have a problem in the product lifecycle or in your career lifecycle or whatever, and then we just go from there. I'm sorry, we're a very small group. Okay. Is anyone ready? You're all looking at me. Just one problem statement. Where am I stuck? That's it. If I don't see you writing, I'm going to choose you. I swear.
So I don't know if this is completely on point, but it's the line to what I already said. So integration's confirmed, but not happening. Because
Yes.
basically we're serving the cross-chain space.
Okay.
Allowing the dApps for the cross-chain. And it's just not fire on their feet. It's not like a massive requirement from their users. It's cool to have, but that bandwidth is kind of a problem. But on top of that, we don't have revenue token, liquidity mining, so basically nothing to incentivize them with. And from a legal standpoint, we still don't have clarity on how we can actually use the token, right? So it's like limited in a lot of ways. So it feels like we have a great product, like great feedback on that product. On the B2C side, it's used. We have nice, like, very good volume and everything, but still not getting the B2B part where we would like to get more integrated.
Okay. Now take everything that you just said and craft it for me in one statement and make it a question.
Okay.
It has to be a question.
Gotcha.
Does anybody have a question ready? Has anybody thought of that? Okay. That's the French guy.
Yeah, so on our side, so basically we have started our community. So we have approximately, I don't know, like 2K followers on Twitter and Discord. We are building like an AMM that resists impermanent loss. And basically, right now I think the point where we are stuck is like we're going to launch soon, and we want to ensure that we have enough liquidity. But I think we can, like, we're looking to increase the quality and the quantity of our community basically. So attract more people that would be, I would say, our target end users, so people who have, I would say, some liquidity. And,
Okay. Did you say that you're an AMM?
Yeah.
You're an AMM that prevents impermanent loss.
Yeah.
So you give ILP, you give impermanent loss protection.
No, we solve it.
You solve ILP.
Yeah.
You solve IL.
Yes.
How do you solve IL?
Basically, we get we've inspired ourselves from the design of traditional market makers.
Okay.
So we use a combination of oracles and the dynamic spread using stochastic calculation.
Okay.
So it's more like we really act like a traditional market maker. So it's a bit of different.
You act like a traditional market maker, but you sort of act like 10 traditional market makers together. Is that what you're saying? You sort of statistically draw from several oracles, you draw unstructured and structured data, and then you use that to sort of hedge and therefore try and prevent impermanent loss.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Essentially, an AMM does two things at the same time. Like they do price discovery,
Yes.
and they do market making. And when you do those two things at the same time, you end up paying a huge amount of money to arbitrageurs
Yes.
to know the real price of the assets.
Yes.
And we avoid that with oracles.
Okay.
And then we incorporate like some dynamic spread to
Got it.
ensure that the the assets are stable.
That's function. Okay. Now, if you have to put that for me in one statement in a question format, what would it look like?
So my question would be like, yeah, how to increase, like how to ensure that we have the right users in our community and to
Right, users in the community. You said you're an AMM, right?
Yeah.
What will a user use on an AMM? Liquidity, right?
Yeah.
Do you have enough liquidity? Is it deep enough to prevent slippage?
I mean,
Because if it's not, then you're asking the wrong question. You're asking the question of the wrong side. The question you should be asking is, who is the first top 3 or top 5 people who will provide liquidity on my AMM first, so that my users come and use them? Because if you don't have liquidity, then you are essentially trying to solve a B to B to C problem, business to customer problem, but you're targeting the customer right now when you don't have the middle business. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, essentially, like we should like we should get some initial
Liquidity. Okay, liquidity has a separate subsection of its own. You can have a liquidity grant. You can have a grant committed to you that doesn't necessarily apply, but also has some sort of promissory note. So it's like, we will give you liquidity of our native token, like if for Polygon or DinoSwap or whatever it is, I don't know which protocol you're on. Are you?
So we're launching on Polygon.
On what?
We're launching on Polygon.
Polygon, great. So Matic does have liquidity grants, and they will give you liquidity, but also DinoSwap, QuickSwap, all the guys that nest on top of Polygon as AMMs, they are all AMMs actually. They also have liquidity grants, but you have to match that grant. And to match that grant, you can do so with your native token, but you need to do a little extra. So if they're doing $250,000, you need to do $250,000 plus X APY, because you're going to give out yields. So what do those rewards look like? Do you want them to be single digit, double digit, triple digit? That's on you. This is a marketing and business decision. And you don't have to give them money straight up. You can give them native tokens, which you already have because you're minting your smart contract. You do that and you produce liquidity. When you produce liquidity, you worry about the quality of the users, because today you don't even know if that user is interested in the token that you brought on your AMM. You don't know.
What do you mean, like?
An AMM has a bajillion tokens, right? You could be using whatever you want. But how do you know if the token that you've decided to partner with is what your user wants? You don't know that. You will only know that when you get a few liquidity providers onto your platform to provide liquidity and see which of the pools are most successful via maybe like a trading competition, a retroactive trading competition.
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to focus on just like blue chip assets for starters, because
yes.
I mean, we need to test the algorithms in real time, right? So in real,
exactly.
In real conditions.
So you could ask for a testnet faucet, and it does not need to be a customer faucet.
Yeah.
It can be a business faucet.
The issue with faucets is that like in finance, basically people are adversarial. So for testnet with faucets, like you don't really test the algorithms, you just test the code. But it doesn't enable you to test like if you're going to make money on it.
Well, their faucet with your testnet should work the same way that your mainnet environment will. That's the ideal testnet. You're an AMM. Your primary product on mainnet is going to be the automated market maker. So if they give you testnet tokens on faucet, or they give you a few to try them out via a grant, then you should be able to successfully test out your AMM, even in a testnet environment.
Yeah, what I mean,
you know what I mean? Like, do you understand?
Arbitrage and stuff on testnets.
Yes, but I mean, that's the stage of a matured product life cycle. For starters, you need to even know what your users interested in. There's like 10,000 tokens out there, 15,000 tokens out there. How do you know which of the Matic tokens they're interested in right now? You don't know that. That's why you don't know quality. That's why you have the quality question about users. You get that question answered only through statistical data. Or you could just ask them in Discord. You can run polls, you can run a snapshot vote, you can run stuff on Twitter, and people will say that, well, you don't even know if they have that bag, right? If they have that bag, they will try it out on your testnet. The only way to check that is to first bring in trial liquidity, to apply for liquidity grants, to put liquidity on the AMM. Oftentimes, we've worked with several people for something like this on Dexys, and you just form a closed-door Telegram group with their team, or a closed-door Discord channel, or you integrate into a Slack channel with their team, and they start to help you instantly. You just need to ask. Polygon especially has a bajillion grants for like everything under the sun. You just need to find the right person and hop over to the right person, and you can go from there.
Yeah.
Great. Anybody else has a question ready? No. The guy in blue, do you have a question ready?
Yeah, I don't know how to structure it.
You can structure it as multiple questions.
Well, basically, when I structure it as a question and answer, it's quite simple. Basically, the token and the token can centralize, even though it's not out yet.
Yeah, but that's fine. Not everybody, marketing activities start a lot before the actual token mint. It's very common. And oftentimes you can even pay your audit house in native token. So like Halborn and a few others, like the smaller one, not always the smaller ones, the mid-range ones.
We already have public and private audits with corn stamps, like we're already far into the...
That means you have a treasury. Yeah, so what is the problem then? Which part of the life cycle is the problem?
Product market fit, and the decision is that like token won't be launched until there's actually a real utility for the token. Like a lot of us think that basically if you do a token pre-product market fit for a product like ours, you're basically doing a cash grab, and that's gonna come as a boomerang in a while, right?
It's true, but if you're doing normal growth hacking activities, oftentimes people will think of your token as a security. They will think of it as a trading asset. They will think of it as something they want to accumulate in their wallet. So what are you shilling at this point in time? Are you shilling the token? Are you shilling the platform?
The platform.
Great. And then are you like incentivizing users to come and try and use it?
So the way we incentivize them is through, so we have like a tiered ranking in the Discord. Basically, where you come in, you're active to become a beta tester. When you're a beta tester, you can access like chains in our staging environment.
Sure.
Bridges access, so you basically have access to things that other people don't. So
Sure.
That's interesting for them. And then third tier is basically the token-gated community, where we created a whole NFT collection, where it's rewarded for different challenges, like someone does things with social media, or brings volume, or helps
Right.
with integrations and stuff like that. So a level of that, I fractionalized like the Genesis piece from the collection and created tokens for that. That like now is the legal part. Can I use those tokens? Because my goal was like, okay, I'll have those tokens that are going to be like a like a proxy token for our token once it comes out. So like you're earning that in different challenges, and then once the token is out, there's X, Y, ratio.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But now there's not legal clarity, because we're registered in Germany, like can we actually use that? Because we have contracts, there's contracts with investors. So it's a very, like shake my hand, or my hand cut off.
Okay, got it. So I'll say two things, right? One, I'll address the legal front separately, right? The first point is that it doesn't look like you are, so I think the problem is with your problem statement. Your problem statement is actually trying to look for a slice of people who exist on your competitors' discords. You're actually trying to look for those people right now. You're at that phase. You're not at the phase where you're inviting anyone and everyone to come and test things out, because they might not give you as much value. The people you really want are usually sitting in your competitor's Discord A, or B, they're sitting on the L1 that you're nested on in their Discords in a specific sub-channel. So you need to start with partnerships first. Permissionless partnerships, but also like, hey, I'm building on your L1, is there something you can do? Hey, I'm building on your L1, can I come join your community call next week? Hey, I'm building on your L1, can I come to your Discord call next week? Can we do a Twitter space together? Do you have any influencers in your subsection that I can talk to? I'd love to give them a native token. I've given them like $1,000 in native tokens. So what is it that you're actually shilling? And who are you shilling to? Because you should not be shilling to the customer just yet. It doesn't make sense. So do you have a list of Discord servers where you can send people out to spread this message? Do you have somebody who does alliances and partnerships for you, who can have these conversations with the foundations and the grants? Is the question you should be answering, because right now you have enough techies and you have potential users What you need is this middle ground. And that middle ground is the problem you should solve first from a health check. From a legal standpoint, look, 15,000 tokens, they're all registered in the BVI. Cayman Islands and Panama, everybody's registered there. The structure is basically whether you're a governance token or a trading security. The minute you can be swapped into USDC, it doesn't matter what you classify yourself as. You are a security, right? So everybody gets registered in the Cayman and Panama, but guess what they're registering there as? A foundation. A foundation is essentially a non-profit. And so you take a treasury from a DAO and then you grant it to this non-profit like, here's free money, use it. And that's what you use to run your startup. That's standard format crypto 101 legal. So it doesn't matter whether you're registered in the canton of Zug in Switzerland, which has Bitcoin as an asset value, or you're in Germany, which is a little more dicey, or you're in Panama or Cayman or Delaware. It doesn't matter where you are, because ultimately it will boil down to the same thing. I think the one problem you have is that you seem like you have two tokens. One is a pre-token of sorts, like a governance token, and one is your actual trading security in the future. Or you look like you're going to have two tokens to me. It looks like that.
The goal with this one is to basically completely put it out of circulation with exchangeable ratio for the actual layer token and protocol once it comes out.
That's it. That's it. The minute you say the word token, to be very honest, I'm sorry I'm making this so vanilla, but you become a tradable security for me and for everybody and to whatever government you answer to. So essentially stop worrying about the legality. That's exactly what your lawyers are for. They need to structure your LLC and your foundation or your charity holdings accordingly. You need to forget all of that and just build. Don't worry about the legality. If your lawyer tells you have to worry about that, fire them. I'm serious. You find somebody better. There are more than enough crypto lawyers today. If you don't have somebody, go to LexDAO. There's a subsection there where you can hire a lawyer. You can pay them in native tokens. They will find it out for you. You will find several open pieces of legal software. LexDAO, L-E-X, LexDAO. LexDAO is a legal DAO of legal engineers and legal lawyers who put free paperwork on their GitHub. You can even get free paperwork. Everything is on the internet. Anybody else have a problem statement? No. Yes, please.
I'll do it, but I think it's a bit general.
Sure.
But
General is fun.
like say in DeFi, I always feel like I need to use a lot of my money
Okay.
in order to provide this initial liquidity and all of that.
In order to provide
The initial liquidity.
the initial liquidity.
Is there like some sort of strategy where I can start basically from zero without ever having to invest my own money?
But then it's not DeFi. DeFi is decentralized finance. Where's the finance?
Like,
You know what I mean?
but the strategy to get the money to put in,
Yeah.
what would be like the best way for me to not invest
Okay.
any of my own money?
Okay, so that's actually the first slide, right? Everything in the first slide has monetary value. It's just not pegged in USD. That's the only difference. Ooh. I don't know Lucas, so I don't know his password. Sorry. So your core team, who your founders are, who they know, where they can get you an interview, who are the influencers who will start talking about you without needing your money just yet, who are the DAOs that you've contributed to in the past who will be sort of grateful and help you out and let you shill them, which are the spaces that you can join, because you don't have to pay to join somebody's Twitter space. You just have to raise your hand and speak about what you're doing. Those are all free. Those are all free marketing. And it's, in fact, through that, people have been known to find their founders and their co-founders. So it's about what investment are you making of time, effort, connections, barter, history, age doesn't I mean like professional age. What are the investments that you're making, and then that will determine the actual monetary value.
So you have to like shield yourself.
You don't have to shill yourself, you can shill your concept.
Yeah.
Techies hate talking about themselves. They don't. But they will lecture you on what they're building. They will. The best way to lecture somebody is to GitHub. If you have good commits in your history of GitHub, if you have a commit for a demo of a product that you're making, that is your best PR. You don't have to talk about yourself. Anybody else? No? No? Then we end this. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Yay. If you have questions and you're shy of asking, you can always... Oh guys, I forgot one thing. This is OX Ventures. They're a decentralized venture capital and funding arm. And that guy sitting right there is from there. If y'all are interested in raising funds, please take a brochure and strike a conversation.
It was both interesting, so
Yeah. So they're here, and I can fling them in the air, or I can hand you one. You can just take one and pass it around. And there's Bull and there's Raymond from there. So VC DAOs or decentralized DAOs are decentralized funds are a great way to raise investment without the VC nightmare.